Whoa, okay, listen up, because I saw Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning on IMAX, all 2 hours and 49 minutes of it. And even now, my pulse is still racing whenever I think about it. Can you even believe it? This is it, the big one. It's the culmination of that insane NED storyline from Dead Reckoning Part 1. And honestly, it feels like the end of an era for this franchise. I'm talking about a massive blockbuster that doesn't just aim to be the ultimate mission. It practically redefines what an action movie can even be, with some of the most audacious sequences I've ever witnessed. But did it actually deliver on all fronts? Did it stick the landing, especially with all the discussions happening? Oh, trust me, we are going there. This is Cinema Roar's take after having some time to process it for you. And you will definitely want to stick around after my spoiler-free verdict, because I am doing a full spoiler deep dive into this absolute beast of a film, including some very controversial moments that have people talking. Alright, let's just get this out there right away. Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt at 62 years old? I mean, is this man even human? If you thought the stunts in Dead Reckoning Part 1 were the absolute peak, well, The Final Reckoning looks at that peak and says, hold my protein shake. I am talking truly mind-bending, physics-defying, practical set pieces that will have you literally gasping for air. I know I was. This movie throws Ethan in some of his most dangerous situations yet. I saw him in a terrifying underwater sequence, so tense and atmospheric. And then there is an aerial stunt that justifies belief, with Ethan grappling with the bad guy high in the air. It's an absolutely spectacular sequence. Honestly, it makes most other action films look like they were shot in a parking lot. Production buzz. Tom Cruise, not just as the star, but as a producer alongside director Christopher McQuarrie, clearly lives and breathes pushing the envelope with practical action. This insane dedication, backed by massive stunt and FX team, is what makes these movies true cinematic events for us. Ethan is pushed to his absolute limits, and Cruise just makes you feel every bone-jarring, long-bursting second of it. These stunts are clearly the film's biggest talking points. Which one are you more excited to see? Or which one truly astounded you if you have already experienced it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious, and hey, if you live for breakdowns of movie magic like this, make sure you're subscribed, because Cinema Roar dissects the biggest movie moments right here for you. Okay, so The Final Reckoning, with a script by Christopher McQuarrie and Eric Jenderson, had a monster job on its hands. I mean, they needed to bring to a head that terrifying complex storyline of the entity and its chilling human agent Gabriel, played by Isai Morales. This AI is the ultimate digital boogeyman, right? So the mission is to finally defeat this world-ending AI, which involves finding a crucial device. Now, the film picks up after Dead Reckoning Part 1. Ethan is facing a world where the entity has completely eroded reality with deepfakes and gained alarming control over global systems. Prison Stallone, played with incredible authority by Angel Bassett, gives Ethan this narrow window of 72 hours to neutralize the entity before a catastrophic global event. Ethan's team is against the clock, with Gabriel and other forces also maneuvering for control of this powerful AI. However, and this is a big however for me, that first hour or so, it's incredibly exposition heavy. I'm talking a barrage of flashbacks and explanations that sometimes made the pacing feel slow to ignite. It's pretty clear they're trying to connect nearly 30 years of franchise history and bring everyone up to speed, which I found ambitious, but for me, it definitely tested my patience a bit. Honestly, once it does get going, particularly after Ethan hits the ocean for a key sequence, the action is relentless and everything you'd expect from a Mission Impossible movie. But be prepared for a dense setup. The core mission is gripping for sure, but for exposition, it's definitely a journey. Let's talk about the team. Haley Atwell's Grace is back, and her dynamic with Ethan, along with her own considerable skills, continues to be a central focus. For me, watching her navigate this insane pressure, it's a highlight. Pom Klementif as Paris is a major standout. She's intense, versatile, and really adds a unique unique energy to the team. Angela Bassett, as President Erica Salone, brings incredible authority to her role. And for us, longtime fans, there is a very welcome and more substantial return for Rolf Saxon as William Dunlow from the very first Mission Impossible film back in 1996. How cool is that? His wife, Tapisa, played by the charming Lucy Tulugarjak, also makes a memorable impression, like Henry Czerny's Kittredge, and new, often memorable additions like Nick Offerman as General Sidney, Holt McCallany as Secretary of Defense Serling, Janet McTeer as Secretary of State Walters, and Trammell Tillman as a suave submarine captain. Katie O'Brien as Navy diver Kodiak also gets a shout out. However, and this is a huge point of contention for me, I have some thoughts on how certain long-standing characters are handled in this finale. Without giving anything away, I noticed some choices that might surprise or even disappoint fans, especially concerning major characters established in previous films. I will get into details in the spoiler zone. So, if you've seen it, what are your thoughts on how the Mission Impossible series treats its recurring characters, especially the women? Who really stood out to you in this finale? And who left you wanting more? Let me know in the comments. Your opinion really sparked great discussions and helped the channel, so don't hold back. It's a massive ensemble, and while many get their moments to shine, truly showcasing that core Mission Impossible theme of teamwork, the emotional follow-through on some character arcs is definitely a hot topic for this finale. Okay, if you're seeing the final reckoning in IMAX, and trust me, you really should, get ready for your ears to be absolutely blown away. The composers are Max Aruj and Alfie Guthrie, and I can tell you their score is one of the most intense and emotional compositions in the entire Mission Impossible franchise. It's a direct successor to previous scores, full of those pulsating themes that just drive the action forward, and they weave in new melodic variations that truly emphasize the emotional weight of this supposed final chapter for Ethan. I definitely heard existing character themes evolve. Ethan's signature theme probably carried a new weight, maybe a touch of weariness before swelling into pure heresy. The entity's motive likely become even more pervasive and unsettling, using aggressive electronic textures. And for Grace, her theme would have ideally matured from part 1 to something more resolute and heroic, as her place within the theme become undeniable. IMAX sound immersion. The sound design in these films, crafted by a large and incredibly talented sound department, is consistently top tier. But for a finale like this, expect every explosion, and there will be many, every tire screech, every whispered thread from Gabriel to be so crystal clear and punchy, it's like you're in the movie. That underwater sequence in particular is singled out for its tremendous undersea sound design that uses claustrophobic silences and terrifying creaks to build unbelievable panic. It's truly an art from how they use sound to crank up the tension and amplify the action. From the eerie hum of the entity to the roar of Ethan fighting on those biplanes thousands of feet up, it's a pure sonic masterpiece that rattles your bones in the best possible way. Seriously, your seat will vibrate. The sound isn't just a background noise. It's a main character in this film, pulling you headfirst into the fight. The final reckoning really hammers home the big idea of this whole two-part epic. Humanity's desperate fight against this cold, calculating, all-powerful AI, the entity. It's not just about the cool explosions and car chases. It's a battle for free will, for truth, in an age of deepfakes and misinformation. For what it means to be human when an AI can supposedly see the future and control reality. As Kittredge so ominously puts it, whoever controls the entity controls the truth. It's a scarily accurate take on a post-truth villain for our times. And of course, all of this deep stuff is wrapped up in some of the most mind-blowing spectacle you will ever see, brought to life by director Christopher McQuarrie and a massive visual and special effects team. McQuarrie is a master at staging these incredible complex action sequences that feel visceral and real. The sheer scale of this finale is off the charts, with those underwater submarine and aerial biplane sequences being the primary jaw droppers. The film grapples with the idea that our lives are the sum of our choices, and themes of loyalty, compassion, and abnegation and sacrifice are central, especially as Ethan confronts his past and the immense weight of his decisions. They absolutely pull out all the stops here, folks. It's a visual feast that also makes you think, which is the perfect blockbuster combo. Brains, brown, and a whole lot of heart. It definitely feels like Tom Cruise is here to save movies again, taking on AI as the ultimate industry threat. But here's the thing, this was never just Ethan Hunt's story, was it? It's always been about his team. Seeing Simon Pegg's Benji and Ving Rhames' Luther right there with Ethan for what truly feels like the ultimate do-or-die mission is, for the most part, incredibly satisfying. Their loyalty, their friendship, that's the soul of this franchise. And I saw a huge cast of characters, both returning and new, playing their crucial parts in this sprawling conclusion. Henry Czerny is back as an increasingly angry and inept Kittredge, adding a great layer of antagonism from Ethan's past. Angela Bassett is the powerful President Sloan, facing immense pressure. Rolf Saxon's William Dunlow makes a significant return from the very first Mission Impossible film, now a key influencer, and his wife, Tapiza, played by the charming Lucy Tulugarjak, also makes a memorable impression. New faces like Trammell Tillman as a suave and stern submarine captain, a real standout for me. Nick Offerman as General Sidney, Hannah Whittingham as Admiral Neely, Holt McCallany as Secretary of Defense Serling, and Katie O'Brien as Navy diver Kodiak all make their mark. And of course, Isai Morales as Gabriel remains the primary human antagonist, with Palm Clementive's Paris evolving into a complex ally. It feels like everyone who needs to be here for the end game is here, and they all contribute to the emotional weight. It's the perfect kind of finale where every character ideally gets their moment to shine, really driving home that theme of teamwork and found family against truly impossible odds. Though I felt the team isn't together as much this time, with Ethan often on solo missions, their presence is felt. Like I said, I just came from IMAX, and honestly, the final reckoning feels like it was born for that screen. Cinematographer Fraser Taggart, who shot Dead Reckoning Part 1, returns, and his work is absolutely essential in delivering that all-consuming IMAX spectacle. The film just looked phenomenal. His use of those IMAX cameras, especially in those huge international set pieces like the Arctic submarine or that insane biplane fight over what looks like the green covered crag of a Congolese mountain range, it just pulls you in. You feel the sheer scale, the dizzying altitude, the suffocating closeness of the underwater scenes. I even noticed an old school glow to his lighting, giving a beautiful nod to classic blockbusters like Indiana Jones. Visual feast alert. These films are legendary for their practical effects, right? For a grand finale, you just know they've pushed those boundaries farther than ever before. You're not just watching the action, you're in the middle of it. For those terrifying underwater moments in the sub to Ethan hanging off a biplane, every single frame is crafted by Taggart and McQuarrie for maximum impact on the biggest canvas possible. If you are an IMAX fanatic like me and believe movies like this deserve that giant screen treatment, smash the like button. Let Hollywood know we want more of this. IMAX. And if you want to see more reviews that champion the biggest screen experience, make sure you subscribe to Cinema Roar. If there's one movie you absolutely have to see on the biggest screen with the best sound this year, The Final Reckoning is right at the top of that list for its sheer visual ambition, a true visual knockout. So, the $1 million question for The Final Reckoning. As the concluding chapter to the super ambitious nearly 30 years saga and the direct sequel to The Reckoning Part 1, does it actually deliver a satisfying payoff? Now remember, this is a first look, so these are my gut reactions, informed by what I saw and what I'm hearing. But I can tell you, this film absolutely swings for the fences. It definitely aims to tie up the major threads with the Entity and Gabriel, and there is a real sense of closure to this practical saga. The action, particularly those two huge set pieces, the underwater and aerial sequences, is relentless and technically astonishing. The emotional stakes are intended to be sky high. Does it answer every single tiny question to everyone's complete satisfaction? For me, probably not. I felt it's overstuffed, too focused on lore and flashbacks, and I think certain character arcs are fumbled. I also felt the plot can be unnecessarily convoluted, but as blockbuster conclusion that's aiming for that perfect blend of jaw-dropping spectacle and real emotion resonance, it's certainly making a very big statement, even if it has a few bumps along the way. Look, it's a monumental task to wrap up a story this big, with this much anticipation, and The Final Reckoning throws everything it has at the screen. It truly feels like a cinematic event that's gonna spark a lot of conversations. Alright, so my fresh out of the theater take on Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning. It is a hugely ambitious, consistently action-packed, and often absolutely breathtaking film that attempts to be a grand conclusion to this massive chapter of Ethan Hunt's story. It's built on that incredible legacy of the franchise, delivering those signature heart-stopping Tom Cruise stunts, a globe-trotting plot that keeps you guessing, and a dedicated team you just can't help but root for. Now, yeah, as I observe and others are saying, its ambition might be its biggest hurdle. That dense, exposition-laden first hour, the controversial handling of certain beloved characters, and a plot that I found convoluted or too self-referential will likely be divisive. But when it soars, particularly in those incredible underwater and aerial sequences, it's spectacular. A testament to the sheer power of practical filmmaking and Tom Cruise's unparalleled commitment. This is a movie that screams to be seen on the biggest screen, even if it leaves you with as many questions as answers. Official scores: IMDb 7.5 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes 80% tomato meter, audience score 89% popcorn meter, Metacritic Metascore 67, user score 7, and Cinema Row rating 8 out of 10. This is a powerful and exhilarating finale that absolutely delivers on the promise of an epic conclusion. It's packed with stunning, innovative action and sky-high stakes. A must-see event, especially if you're a fan of this series and want to see how this incredible saga wraps up. A spoiler warning: if you haven't seen Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, seriously, skip to next part. Okay, if you're still with me, you've either seen Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning or you really don't mind spoilers. So let's pull back the curtain and get into the guts of this thing. Informed by what I saw and what I'm hearing people are already buzzing about, this is where I dissect the moments that made me gasp, cheer, and maybe even scratch my head a little. This script by Christopher McQuarrie and Eric Jenderson, I gotta say, is incredibly ambitious, aiming to tie together nearly 3 decades of Mission Impossible lore. Structurally, The Final Reckoning felt like a masterclass in escalating stakes, which I'd absolutely demand from a finale. The first act, though, is where some of the biggest debates are happening. I thought it did a rock-solid job of immediately reestablishing the entity's terrifying threat and just catapulting us straight back into the hunt for those final puzzle pieces to shut it down for good. The pacing right out of the gate was just relentless, no messing around. But as I noticed that first hour is dense, I got a lot of exposition explaining the entity's expanded capabilities, controlling nuclear arsenal, using deepfakes, the whole terrifying package. And yeah, there are a ton of flashbacks and references to previous films. I even spotted explicit callbacks to the knife that slipped out of John Reno's grasp in Brian De Palma's first Mission Impossible film. It was treated almost like a religious relic. There's even a revelation about what Philip Seymour Hoffman's character was after in Mission Impossible 3 that's now suddenly relevant. And get this, a solid chunk of the second and third acts are devoted to what happened to the guy at the computer terminal that Cruise hacked in the first one after he came back with his coffee. This kind of pedantic retconning is either brilliant fan service or, as I felt, a bit unnecessary and shameless. I think they tried too hard to connect everything to Ethan's past, sometimes inorganically, to make it all feel like everything has led to this. For me, this made the first hour feel bloated and a slog, almost like 4/5 of the new film was just recap. The idea of cult helping the entity via social media disinformation, though, that's a very modern and chilling touch. The core plot is Ethan's desperate race against the time, a 72-hour window given by President Stallone to find the Saga Sevastopol submarine and secure the entity's source code, the Podkova device. Gabriel, even after being cast out by the entity, is still a major chilling force, setting traps and trying to control the entity himself, needing Ethan to do it. And Kittredge, played by Henry Czerny, is an ever-present government antagonist trying to get control of the entity for the US. Thematically, the way they tried to bring Ethan's arc, especially dealing with his past and his unwavering commitment to his team, to a head felt really earned. This script didn't shy away from emphasizing that his true superpower isn't just his insane physical skills, but that deep well of loyalty and his absolute refusal to compromise his principles or his people. That final throwdown with Gabriel, it's not just two guys fighting, it's an ideological war for the future. And the method they used to finally outsmart the entity, I found it to be really satisfying mix of cutting edge strategy, exploiting its own predictive nature, and that classic Mission Impossible blend of human ingenuity and sheer, unpredictable guts, which is really the core of this whole franchise, isn't it? For those of you who've seen it, and I know you're out there, what was the plot twist or character decision that completely floored you? Did you find the exposition too heavy? Let me know in the spoiler tagged comments down below. I'm really curious to see what hit you the hardest. So, now about major character developments and controversies. Did they stick the landing? Let's talk about some of the big ones that have everyone talking. The first and most heartbreaking for many is the death of Luther Stickle, Ving Rhames. I saw Gabriel kill Luther in the film's first act, trapping him in a tunnel with a bomb. Now I felt that Luther has agency in his death, choosing to disarm the bomb to minimize damage, which is a powerful sacrifice. However, for me, and I'm hearing from others, his death felt pathetic and badly written. It happened too quickly without the emotional weight a character of his stature deserved. It felt primarily like a plot device to paint Gabriel as a worse villain. This is a huge blow, especially since Luther is such a pillar of the franchise. But on the flip side, it's also clearly shown that Luther's death and a poison pill he created are central to ultimately defeating the entity, giving his loss a huge thematic impact for Ethan and the team. His genius and loyalty are essential to the legacy. Then there is the Ilsa Faust situation. This is a big point of contention and frankly a huge controversy for me. I noticed her almost complete erasure after her death in part 1. She's relegated to a brief flashback and the continued flirtation between Ethan and Grace felt to me especially disrespectful to Ilsa's memory and her central role in previous films. This felt like a major misstep. I also found that Grace, despite Haley Atwell's efforts, felt woefully deadweight compared to Ilsa often being rescued. On a more positive note, for character arcs, Benji Dunn, Simon Peck, shows significant growth. He's moved from a scared data guy to a leader, even leading his own team, while Ethan is off on solo missions. He gets wounded in the final act and has to guide Grace through a hack and talk Paris through a life-saving procedure. Paris, Pom Clementif, is confirmed as a standout new team member, evolving into a complex ally. I thought she was amazing. I found her praised for her intensity, her fighting skill with a knife, and her scenes speaking French with Ethan and Benji make her a uniquely engaging presence. I even felt she was the most substantial new addition, arguably overshadowing Grace. Ethan Hunt himself, after being plagued by insecurity in Death Reckoning Part 1, I found was never so sure of his motivations or capabilities in the final reckoning. He embraces performing the one in a trillion chance plan, fully trusting himself and the team. I saw him as a deeply human, and his relationships remain central to his successes. He represents human insecurity and rebuilding himself to learn lessons. That's why I follow him. Oh, and I even noticed his hair is long, limp, and spiritless, which I personally found gave him a Schemhauer look during some moments, and for me, provided the only other significant laughs, not on purpose. What did you think of Luther's fate and how it was handled, and the way Ilsa was or wasn't acknowledged? These are huge discussion points, so share your spoiler-filled thoughts in the comments. The composer listed are Max Aruj and Alfie Guthrie, and whoa, did they deliver? I found their score to be one of the most intense and emotional compositions in the entire Mission Impossible franchise, acting as a direct successor to previous scores. It's filled with those pulsating themes that just drive the action forward, but they also weave in new melodic variations that truly emphasize the emotional weight of the supposed final chapter for Ethan. I definitely heard existing character themes evolve. Ethan's signature theme probably carried a new weight, maybe a touch of weariness before swelling into pure heroism. The entity's motif likely become even more pervasive and unsettling using aggressive electronic textures. And for Grace, her theme matured from part 1 to something more resolute and heroic, as her place within the team become more established. Of course, Lalo Schifrin's iconic main theme is woven throughout, always a thrill and one of the franchise's best feature, and its orchestrations are highlighted. The use of silence too in those claustrophic submarine sequences, followed by powerful musical cues, sounds like pure cinematic tension. It was the score that felt both absolutely massive in scale and incredibly intimate when it needed to be. A real feat from the entire music department of over 30 people. Christopher McQuarrie, man, he's become so intertwined with what I think of as peak Mission Impossible, and the final reckoning really feels like the crescendo of his incredible collaboration with Tom Cruise. His directorial DNA is all over this movie. Those unbelievably intricate plots that somehow, against all odds, mostly, come together satisfyingly. That deep-seated commitment to practical, visceral action that makes you feel every impact, and those wonderful quiet character moments he managed to carve out even when the world is literally exploding around them. What I especially loved in this finale, and this is pure McQuarrie, was how he balanced the absolutely colossal scale of the threat with these really tight personal stakes. Yeah, the fate of the globe is on the line, but he so often brings that camera in close, focusing on the sweat, the fear, the sheer grit on the actors' faces, and his ability to maintain crystal clear geography during even the most ridiculously complex action sequences, it's honestly second to none. You always know where everyone is, what they are trying to achieve, and why it matters, which is just crucial for keeping the audience locked in. However, I also felt he took flack for several aspects, and this is where the debates get heated. I noticed what I'd call the flanderization of the series, where essential traits become exaggerated. The heavy exposition in the first hour, the sometimes clumsy and inorganic plot construction trying back to past films, which to me even had Avengers Endgame's self-referential lore vibes, and making Ethan a pure reactive character who often succeeds by dumb luck rather than just skill were definite points for me. A particular controversy is how McQuarrie handles key action sequences like the biplane stunt. Instead of letting the stunt breathe, he cuts away to less interesting plot lines like bomb defusal or IT work, potentially undercutting the spectacle. I even felt it was a betrayal of the latter day Mission Impossible ethos to prioritize plot over spectacle in this way. Another specific criticism I picked up on is what I call aniphatic, where stakes are raised so high in a given action sequence that it becomes comical. I saw this in Submarine Dive. Ethan has to get permission from the president to commandeer an aircraft carrier, then jump from Ospreys to a submarine to avoid Russian fighters' jets, nearly starting World War III in the Bering Strait. He has experimental diving gear, but no way to depressurize. The sub is half flooded, rolls on a cliffside, and he has to traverse a torpedo bay full of steel arm projectiles. And then McQuarrie finds 15 more ways to raise the stakes, making it feel like Ethan only survives by dumb luck. There's also a specific gun troop subversion involving Nick Offerman that I thought was pretty clever. Beyond this, I noticed a very jarring moment right after the submarine sequence. Ethan gets out of the sub and without a wetsuit surfaces, and I saw him getting into shock and suffocating. Suddenly, the scene cut to a tent over the ice where he's waking up rescued. This was a really odd part of the movie for me. It felt almost like he was dead and dreaming at that moment of being alive. But as the movie went forward, I believed he was alive. It was a worst and odd moment in the movie's flow. Despite these criticisms, his ability to execute the action is still widely praised. He understands that action without emotional stakes is just visual noise. And he made damn sure I cared even if some of the plot sometimes got in the way of the fun. And visually, whoa, cinematographer Fraser Taggart, returning from Dead Reckoning Part 1, brought his absolute A game to the final reckoning, making it an absolute feast for my eyes and essential for that IMAX experience. The film just looked phenomenal. His use of those IMAX cameras, especially in those huge international set pieces like the submarine in Arctic Ocean sequence and that insane biplane fight over what I'd describe as the green covered crags of a Congolese mountain range, it just pulls you in. You feel the sheer scale, the dizzying altitude, the suffocating closeness of the underwater scenes. He absolutely delivered a fantastic staging, camera work, and that eye-popping color in full frame IMAX for the biplane sequence. Production designer Gary Freeman and his massive art department team, along with set decorator Raffaella Giovanetti, clearly built incredible worlds for Taggart to shoot. His way of framing action is consistently dynamic and incredibly clear. Even in the most chaotic brawls or high-speed chases, Taggart's camera, obviously guided by McQuarrie's vision, always finds that perfect, compelling angle. It ensured I could follow the intricacy of the stunts without ever resorting to confusing a skycam. But it wasn't all just action. There were some truly beautiful, almost painterly shots shots too, especially in those quieter moments. It was from start to finish a masterfully shot film, truly designed to be a visual journey. So, yeah, when I really get under the hood, the Final Reckoning is this incredibly complex, beautifully engineered machine with a ton of moving parts brought to life by a massive crew. But from the core script to that final stunning visual polish, it really felt like a creative team firing on all cylinders, totally committed to delivering a powerful and memorable conclusion. But hey, that's just my take after one viewing and diving deep into some early reactions. So, are you hyped to see Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning after hearing all this? If you've already seen it, and I know some of you are lightning fast, what were your immediate spoiler free thoughts? Or if you're stuck through the spoiler section with me, what did you think of my deep dive analysis, especially regarding those major plot points? I absolutely want to hear all of it down in the comments below. Let's get a real discussion going. If you enjoyed this first look review and my spoiler deep dive and you want more fresh takes on the biggest new releases, please do me a massive favor, smash that like button, share this video with your fellow action movie fanatics, spread the word, and of course, please subscribe to Cinema Roar and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. I've got so much more awesome movie content coming your way. This is Cinema Roar signing off. Today's reel has ended, but the projector is already warming up for the next enigma. You won't want to miss what will be uncovered.